Obviously, with Season of the Witch, we got new activities, new weapons, new exotics, a bunch of stuff to test out. But if you didn't hear, with the update for the season, Threadlings got an increased damage by 30% against PvE combatants. So we are revisiting my Swarmer's Threadling King build. So let's just dive right into it and talk about the Swarmer's exotic. So this is what it looks like right here. Actually got an ornament this season to where they kind of look like boots, like actual boots versus whatever this is. But in any event, the main thing is the perk, right? Swarmers. Destroying a tangle spawns a Threadling. Your Threadlings unravel targets that they damage. Obviously, we want to take advantage of what's available on the artifact. Personally, there really isn't anything too specific for this build, but there are a couple things that do stand out. First of all, being the Arc Strand, Solar Strand, and Void Strand Siphon combos. I am going to be using Strand weapons with Arc weapons for this example, so I'm going to be maining the Arc Strand Siphon combo. Next up, I would look into refreshing pickups. Picking up a Tangle or Elemental Orb grants energy to your least powered ability. Again, this is just going to help with ability regeneration in general. Another one to look into in the last column, Monochromatic Maestro. Dealing elemental ability damage increases matching weapon damage, and elemental weapon damage increases matching ability damage. Bonus granted is 10% for 5 seconds. So as long as I'm using a Strand weapon with the Strand subclass, I can basically trade off damages between both of those, which is really good. Now let's go over what I'm using under the Broodweaver Strand subclass. So for our abilities, I'm opting for the Healing Rift, Burst Glide for movement, but you can use what you'd like. For our melee, we only have the one, which is Arcane Needle. It does unravel targets, which again can create tangles, so keep that in mind. And then for the grenade, I'm opting for the Threadling grenade. Again, this build is all around the Threadling since they got that big damage bonus, but we can opt for the grapple, and I'll talk about that here in a second. Why? For our aspects, I know people want to talk about using Weave Walk. Again, this is the new one. Again, when you press your dodge while you're airborne, you enter the weave, gaining damage resistance from combatants and players. Reactivate your air dodge or cast a rift to exit the weave. While in weave, you generate perched Threadlings over time. It generates them pretty quickly, so you can get 5 perched Threadlings right off the bat. And if you pair that with something like Weaver's Call, so when you cast your rift, you basically toss out 3 Threadlings whenever you cast it. So there's 8 Threadlings right there, right off the bat. Just go out and attack targets. But personally, I didn't really find it useful in general, just because you can't really do anything while you're in the weave. Yeah, you can get shot. You have a lot of damage resistance. It actually got disabled for now because Bungie has to fix it because it's too broken in the Crucible. I was going to make a build about that, but now we have to wait. So I am opting for Mindspun Invocation. So basically, all of our grenades have enhanced functionality now. So if we decide to do the grapple melee, like I mentioned, you can use grapple with this build. If you grapple melee, it spawns 3 Threadlings. So you grab, boom, 3 Threadlings there right off the bat. And with the Threadling grenade specifically, if you consume it, it'll generate those 5 perched Threadlings. So instead of having to, waste your melee ability to go into the weave to get 5 perched Threadlings, you can just eat your grenade. I just find that a little more functional, so to speak. Next up for our fragments, first up, Thread of Generation, always a classic. Dealing damage generates grenade energy, minus 10 to discipline. It did get a nerf by 20%, but it is still extremely effective. Next up, Thread of Warding, never take this up. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Wolf of Mail, minus 10 to discipline, basically free damage resistance as long as you're creating Orbs of Power and picking those up. Next up, Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage, plus 10% intellect. Again, this is just going to help our Threadlings out even more. This is the whole build. We want to have a million of those little guys going on everywhere. Then lastly, I personally like Thread of Rebirth. Strand Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create a Threadling. Now, if you didn't want to use this one, you can always look into using the classic Thread of Continuity. Again, Suspend, Unravel, and Sever effects applied to targets having increased duration. You can totally do so, but I personally like Thread of Rebirth because I am going to be using the Quicksilver Storm, and what's really cool is that there's a lot of opportunity just to create a random Threadling from getting a kill. Next, let's go over the armor mods that I'm using. First up, starting with the helmet, I have the Arc Strand Siphon combo because I am going to be using Strand and Arc weapons for this build in particular. If you are going to be using Solar or Void weapons, again, if you decide to change out your Energy or Heavy, that's totally fine. You can use this. I'm just using Arc Strand for the build, but I would recommend Ash to the Assets. Gain bonus super energy on grenade kills, so those Threadlings will give you bonus super energy. If you did want to change this to something like Dynamo, so when you cast that rift near targets, you do get more super energy from that, you can totally do that one as well. For our gauntlets here, I'm rocking Bolstering Detonation, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. Next up, Momentum Transfer and Impact Induction. As long as I cause damage with my grenade or my melee, it's going to cool down both of those abilities respectively. Again, we want really fast ability uptime with this. For the chest piece, I am rocking Arc Reserves because I am using Arc weapons. And honestly, you can rock any combination of reserve and resistance mods that you like, whatever you find useful. Again, I do like melee damage resistance, but also sniper damage resistance can come into play here. On the boots, I am rocking Arc and Strand Weapon Surge. Pretty much those weapons gain a small bonus to damage while I have any armor charge, and my armor charge now decays over time. Again, the way that you get armor charges, you should collect an orb of power. Minimum, you can have 3 armor charges. With these blue mods, those charges now last 10 seconds. So if I have 3 armor charges, that's 30 seconds of this bonus weapon damage. Keep that in mind. Then lastly, I have Recuperation. I really like this one for this build since there really isn't a way to heal yourself, but replenishing health each time you pick up an orb of power is going to be very, very useful for us. If you did want to replace one of the weapon surge mods, with something like Elemental Charge, you can. Again, collecting a Fire Sprite, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, Void Breach, or destroying a Strand Tangle has an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. It's not absolutely necessary, but again, that's just something you can look into. And then lastly on the class item, I personally like the Bomber Outreach combo. So when I use my Healing Rift, I get energy for my melee and my grenade. And then lastly, Reaper. After using that class ability, my next weapon final blow spawns an Orb of Power. For stats to focus on, first up, we always talk about it every video, try to have tier 10 100 resilience. It's going to give you a 30% damage reduction in PvE. Again, whenever you're doing activities, we definitely want to take less damage from targets, and this is going to be the best way to do that. The second stat I would look into is Discipline. Again, Discipline is tied to the grenade stat, and the faster we can have our grenade, the more Threadlings we can have out on the field. You could potentially look into Recovery since that is tied to the class ability stat, the Healing and Empowering Rift for the Warlock. So if you want to have those 3 Threadlings come out when you use that Rift, you could look into this. Could also look into Strength for the melee and Intellect for the super, but the main 2 would be Resilience and Discipline, like I said. So for your weapon options, like I said, I am going to be using the Arc Strand Siphon combo. So I have Quicksilver Storm as my Strand and then 2 Arc weapons here. But Quicksilver Storm in particular is very good, especially once you get the Catalyst rolling. So let's just run through the perks. We have Rocket Tracers. Landing multiple hits turns your next shot into a homing micro rocket. We also have Corkscrew Rifling, high caliber rounds with hand-laid stock, and then Grenade Chaser. Landing those rockets loads a grenade, and when you basically hold your reload button, it switches to the grenade launcher mode. You can have 3 grenades. And then with the Catalyst, this is the important part. With the Catalyst, the weapon's damage type turns into Strand, and final blows with the grenades from the grenade launcher create Tangles. Again, we do want to take advantage of Tangles to have even more Threadlings on the field. If you didn't want to use Quicksilver Storm, you can use any other Strand weapon that you like. I just really like Quicksilver Storm in general. Again, Rufus Fury is always a fantastic option here. Again, this was just an example. Demolitionist with Paracausal Affinity pretty much kills, give me grenade energy, and then also I get extra damage when I get kills with this because the Strand weapon matches my subclass element type, so it's just bonus damage with the auto rifle. But the second reason I am rocking Quicksilver Storm is because this season we do have anti-barrier auto rifles, so that covers anti-barrier champions. Now, for our energy and heavy weapon, I am rocking a fusion rifle, which if you didn't know, we have unstoppable fusion this time around. So I have a fusion rifle here. And lastly, in the slot, I personally like my hothead. Again, it's the Arc Weapon Siphon. I'm going to have bonus arc damage. This thing's great. Explosive light, auto-loading holster, a dead big ones. It's fantastic, but if I wanted to rock a machine gun, the one good thing on the artifact is that we have overload machine guns. So the one good thing with how I have this set up is that, number one, it's going to have really good damage and just really good weapons in general. Quicksilver Storm is fantastic, but I can handle all 3 champion types without having to crutch on something like the Shackle Grenade for this build. I can just have my Threadlings do insane amount of damage and insane amount of ad control. Now, if you got through all that and you're still a little confused about how this build works, I'm going to lay it out for you, but essentially, as long as you are using abilities and your weapons, you're going to have a million Threadlings on the field, bonus weapon damage, and fast ability cooldown. So let's say we're about to go into an engagement. What do we want to do? So first up, I'd recommend either throwing or consuming your Threadling Grenade. Just note, throwing it only gives you 3 Threadlings, and consuming it with Mind Spugnification gives you 5 Purge Threadlings. And then, if it's a tough activity, you can always pop your Healing Rift right off the bat, launching the 3 Threadlings from the Rift, and also your Purge Threadlings, which is 5. So now you have 8 Threadlings going out and destroying everything right off the bat. Absolutely disgusting. Just note, with Thread of Evolution, they're going to travel farther and deal even more damage for you. And while you're blasting them with Quicksilver Storm, again with Thread of Rebirth, there's a chance for it to also spawn a Threadling there as well. And with the Swarmers, again, a Tangle is going to be created regardless of what's going on, because Threadlings now apply the Unravel debuff. And again, anytime there's a debuff on a target and they die, a Tangle is going to spawn. When you destroy that Tangle, it's going to spawn Threadlings as well. So now we have multiple options for those Threadlings. And again, with our other fragments here, Thread of Generation, as long as we deal damage, we're getting that Threadling Grenade back even faster. And whenever we pick up Orbs of Power, whether it's through the, Arc Strand Siphon mod or the Reaper mod. Again, now we are getting Woven Mail, which is even more damage resistance. And most of this other stuff is a bonus. Quicksilver Storm is just a fantastic auto rifle in general. Being able to have those mini rockets deal extra damage, plus be able to pierce enemy shields as well. What's really cool is the grenade launcher version of the weapon can have the anti-barrier with anti-barrier auto, which is just absolutely disgusting. And if you didn't know, the grenades for Quicksilver Storm actually got a damage buff, so they deal some pretty good damage. And we also have the opportunity to create tangles with the grenades as well. With our, the rest of our armor mods, Ashes to Assets, or Dynamo, whatever you want to use on the helmet, you're getting bonus super energy whenever you're using your grenade or your class ability. For the gauntlets, as long as we're dealing damage with our grenades and our melees, we're getting a faster cooldown for pretty much every single one of our abilities. Again, on the boots, as long as we collect Orbs of Power, not only are we getting health back, but now we get bonus weapon damage for our Strand and Arc weapons. And obviously, lastly on the class item, if we need to pop our Healing Rift, or we want to pop our Healing Rift, not only Outreach and Bomber kick in, giving us melee and grenade energy, the next weapon kill we get spawns another Orb of Power. Again, like I said, as long as you are using what you have available, you're going to create a bunch of Threadlings, apply a bunch of debuffs, and you're going to wipe everything on the field. But ladies and gentlemen, that is my updated Swarmers Threadling build. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm actually going to post the dim link for this build in the description, so if you want to copy everything that I'm using, from the subclass to the armor mods to the weapons, even the drip, if you'd like, you could take advantage of all those things and test out for yourself. Is there something that you like, something that you change out that you find is a little more effective for you? Again, let me know. I'm testing stuff out in this game all the time. In any event, if you like what you saw, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn the bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on another build video here on the channel. If you didn't know, we actually live stream here on YouTube and also on Kick. That link will be in the description. Again, we are mainly going to be playing Destiny 2, so if you want to hop in for any PvE, PvP activities, dungeons, raids, whenever we host them, anything like that, again, just hop in the chat. We'll figure something out, and if you want to be proactive, join my Discord. That link will be in the description. Again, we have people asking about Destiny 2, a couple other games as well on top of PC Tech, anime, and more. And lastly, if you want to support the channel even more so I can continue making these videos for you guys, you can always look into becoming a member. If you don't know what a membership is essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, you're going to get access to the exclusive emotes, the monthly badges, and other cool stuff here on the channel. So, if you would like more information, all you have to do is press the join button next subscribe, and that'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!
Sword logic is easy. Survival